Alright, so in this video I want to talk about user-defined types and how we can go about writing our own types as opposed to just being limited to what's provided to us by the C++ language. Okay, so before we look at user-defined types and how we can go about writing our own, let's quickly review the built-in types that we've looked at recently. So we've looked at the int, the float, and the double, the char, and the bool. So with the int, the float, and the double, those were all used to represent some sort of numeric values. And with the float and the double, we could actually represent values that had a fractional part, so real number or approximation of real numbers. With the char, we could represent single character values, so anything that you see there on the keyboard in terms of alphabetic characters, both uppercase and lowercase, in addition to a lot of other symbols as well. And then the bool was used to store true-false values. So the C++ language, and specifically the C++ compiler, knows exactly how to handle these types and to handle the associated operations and what operations can actually be performed on these particular types. So many user-defined types were provided to us by the C++ standard library. And one of those user-defined types provided by the C++ standard library is the string type. And we've made use of that several times in the most recent programs. So we saw that with the string type, we could perform various operations. So we could get a size of a particular string, we could get a character at a particular position, and we could also make use of the assignment operation. So we could assign a particular string value, be it a literal or a variable, to another string variable. And what we'll find out is that whenever we build up our own types, our own user-defined types, that we'll be defining those types in terms of certain attributes and properties and also certain operations. So what operations can we perform on that type? What sort of state information or properties does that particular type have? And that's really what goes on when we start defining our own types. So whenever we start writing our own types, we'll often want to be able to define that particular thing, whatever it is, in terms of its properties and its operations. And in terms of the properties, sometimes you'll hear the terms attributes or state information, so what state that thing is in. But those are all related to the same idea. So we're going to look at two different examples here, one dealing with a bank account and the other one dealing with a television, and how we can actually model these particular things in terms of defining a user-defined type in terms of its properties and operations. So we'll first take the bank account. So with the bank account, there's a lot of properties that we can associate with it. One would be the customer's name, maybe their account number, their amount that they have in savings, the amount that they have in checking. So these are all properties that we associate with a particular bank account. And we could also associate operations. So the operation may be deposit, so deposit some amount of money into this particular account. Withdrawal, so that's the opposite of doing a deposit, being able to take money out of your account to use for some purpose. And then being able to maybe transfer some amount of money between different accounts that you may have on that specific bank account. So these are the various properties and operations that we'd like to model for this abstract concept of a bank account. Now, in terms of a television set, we can start thinking about the same sort of things. What are the properties and what are the operations? And maybe we'll use the term state information in terms of a television set as opposed to talking about properties. So for a television, we can think about the state of the power. So is the television on or off? What's the current channel setting? So are we on channel 10 or are we on channel 100? So that would be, what is the current state of the channel? The volume setting, so where is the volume set right now? Is it, the lowest setting or at the highest setting or somewhere in between? In addition to the state information, we could also talk about the operations. So we could talk about toggling the power on and off. So this would be a specific operation that we would do. And then in terms of changing channels, so we could have an operation that allows us to change the channel from something else. Maybe it's just simply going up a channel or going down a channel, or it may be actually using numeric keypad to punch in a specific channel. Also changing the volume, so being able to change the volume going up and down. So these would be specific operations that we could associate with a television set. So if we think about trying to translate these concepts of properties and operations into something in C++, we can start thinking about variables and functions. So the variables would be able to represent the properties or the state or the attributes of some specific thing, whereas the operations would be our functions. So these would allow us to actually manipulate and change the values associated with the properties or the state information. So if we move the channel up or down, that would actually change the state information of what channel we had. Or if we turn if the television set was currently on and we toggle the power off, that would be changing that state information. So these operations are actually working on or manipulating those state values.